Today was the vote on potentially hiking the federal minimum wage. Now, before that vote actually happened, Tim Pawlenty, the former governor of Minnesota, was on Morning Joe talking about this issue, and he's going to say something sort of unexpected. Let's watch it.
I also think, by the way, the Republicans should support a reasonable increase in the minimum wage. If you're going to talk the talk about being for the middle class and the working person, if we have a minimum wage, it should be reasonably adjusted from time to time. And for all the Republicans who come on and talk about, we're for the blue collar worker, we're for the working person, there's some basic things that we should be for. One of them is the reasonable increases from time to time in the minimum wage.
So that's what Tim Pawlenty says. Now, bear in mind, he is not going to be voting on it, but people who are a bit closer to the vote, like Speaker John Boehner, tweeted out, "A minimum wage hike will hurt more people than it helps. Let's address poverty and unemployment with real solutions." Real solutions that I am not proposing and we will not be voting on.
And so did that link have a list of real solutions, I assume, that he had right after that?
It didn't have real solutions. He also wasn't specific about who it's going to harm. It's going to harm these corporations. Poor corporations, they're not going to make as much of a profit. That's who it's going to harm.
Barely going to harm them, anyway. So Tim Pawlenty said that they did actually have the vote, or I should say they had a vote to try to get it to the full Senate to be voted on, and unfortunately they could not. They needed 60 votes because of the implied filibuster from the Republicans. They got 54 in a test vote, and so it is not going to advance to the full Senate. We will not be raising the federal minimum wage.
How incredible is it that we have a Congress that refuses to increase the minimum wage to keep up with inflation? It's not even, we can't even get it to keep up with inflation. How insane is that? You cannot, I love that clip that we showed because it's absolutely true. You cannot say that you are supportive of the middle class when you refuse to pay them a fair wage for their work.
Yeah.
$10.10. I mean, that's not even enough to, live, to be honest with you. $10.10 is not enough, depending on which state you're living in, of course. That's why you have fast food workers that are asking for $15 an hour, because that's a living wage as opposed to a minimum wage.
Now, again, that lion, Tim Pawlenty, that we just helped out, in an email to Politico later on Wednesday, meaning later in that morning, because this was all very early in the morning, because he was on Morning Joe. Then after he had his appearance, he's like, well, we need to help out. We can't just talk the talk. We got to be helping the blue-collar workers. He said he opposed the minimum wage proposal supported by the Democrats, which raises it to $10.10 an hour. Now, when he was the governor up in Minnesota, there was a proposal to raise it to $7.75. Of course, he rejected that. But in 2005, he did. He was compromising, with these Republicans, with Democrats, to $6.15 an hour. This is in 2005. So in his rejection of the proposal now, he says, I just wish that these Democrats would work with Republicans to find a reasonable compromise. You just said this morning that Republicans aren't doing anything to have any kind of reasonable compromise. But in the same morning, he said, I wish these Democrats would just compromise with the people I just said aren't compromising on anything on minimum wage so we can get something done. This stupid circular argument just doesn't make any sense, but he just keeps saying it. No one's going to ask him tomorrow when he comes on some show or next week. Mr. Pawlenty, you came on and said two very conflicting statements. What do you believe? Just play both from form and see what he says. No one's going to do that.
I think being a governor must be really more boring than we think it would be, because it seems like after they leave office, they forget about it entirely. They just block it from their mind. You know what? If you can vote to raise it, you should vote to raise it. Wait, did I vote to raise it? No, I did not. Now, bear in mind that while we have no real progress on the federal minimum wage, some states are taking upon themselves to raise it on their own at the state level. I believe Hawaii just recently did that. That's something, but we need the federal government to lead the way. And also, they will say that it will hurt the economy. And look, honestly, when like the CBO and other organizations, academics look into it, it is possible that under some definitions it will hurt the economy. For instance, it's likely that in the medium term, if you were to raise it to 10.10, I believe, they said it would increase the unemployment rate by about 0.1 to possibly 0.3 at the most extreme. Which is a lot of people, honestly. But it's a very small percentage increase to the unemployment rate. And the people who would have jobs under this new higher minimum wage would make a lot more money. Their families would be much more secure. And actually, over the medium term, as I said, the effect on our economy would actually be a net plus.
Yeah, they're spending more money.
They're spending the freaking money.
And you need to hire more people to push out more of your product.